What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you not really a movie review, but more just a spoiler discussion on Marvel's Infinity War. So, I obviously went and saw Infinity War on opening night. I already did my spoiler-free review, and this is just sort of me wanting to talk about specific things that I liked with the spoilers, because obviously in that review, I had to be rather vague about a lot of things. So in this, I'm just going to kind of talk about some of the things that I really liked, some of the things that maybe I didn't like as much, but actually be able to give more context for them. So in terms of what I liked about this movie, I really enjoyed the whole movie, you know, like I think it did a lot of things well. I think the fact that they chose to kill a lot of characters worked out very well in the long term for Marvel's storytelling. So far, Marvel has been so safe in every single movie to not kill anyone that's really that important. You know, they killed Quicksilver in Ultron, they killed Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and while both of those characters definitely had emotional aspects to their death, neither one was someone who you were like gonna be bawling over. Yondu's was more emotional than Quicksilver's, obviously, but even then it still was like, it's Yondu, you know, it's not like it's Rocket or something. And in this one they finally decided to do that. I mean, opening scene, which I honestly do have to say, the opening scene of this film is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, because I think it truly embodies everything that this movie has in one small scene. It shows the power of the Black Order, it shows the power of Thanos, it shows the weakness of the Avengers, and it shows Thanos' willingness to kill people that are in his way. Because that's what this whole movie is, and it's all broken down in that opening scene. We can, you know, infer based on what we see in that opening scene exactly what the rest of this film will be like. It opens, Thor is already defeated, Ebony Maw is giving his speech about how they all should be so happy they were killed by the children of Thanos, and then Loki stands up and is like, well, we have a Hulk, and then Thanos beats the shit out of the Hulk. Like, the Hulk's hitting him, and then freaking Black Dwarf, but in this movie he's called Cull Obsidian, the big dude in the Black Order, is like, I'm gonna go stop him, and then Ebony Maw's like, nah, let him have his fun, and then Thanos just like flips a switch and destroys the Hulk. The Hulk. And then next thing we know, Heimdall shoots the Hulk off into space, and then Thanos just kills Heimdall. He kills Idris Elba not even 5 minutes into this movie. He stabs a spear through his chest and kills him right in front of Thor. And then Loki, who was the one who sort of sicked the Hulk on Thanos, is just kind of standing there, and then he's like, you need a guide? And to me, Tom Hiddleston's performance in this scene, following the point where he says like, you need a guide to go to Earth, is the best acting in the whole movie. When he's giving his little speech where he's like, I, Loki of Asgard, and then he looks at Thor and says, Odin's son, and then he like spawns the dagger into his hand, and then Thanos chokes him to death in front of Thor and leaves his lifeless, bloodied corpse just in front of Thor for when they leave after he gives up the Tesseract. That scene is so amazing, and Tom Hiddleston's performance is so phenomenal, even though it's so short and he's barely in this movie. But they also killed a actual major character. Like, Loki is dead. I 100% do not think that Loki is still alive after that. He is done for. But that opening scene embodied the whole movie, and then of course after that we get a lot of great comedy throughout this film, and I think obviously Doctor Strange and Tony Stark together makes for a lot of comedy. Peter Parker being there is really good. They make a fun sort of trio to give us good laughs and cool action, and I really enjoyed them. But to me, the highlight comedy-wise is Thor with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor and Drax and Rocket and all them are really funny together, and I really think that Thor is like climbing the list of becoming possibly my favorite Avenger since Ragnarok. I loved Ragnarok so much, and I think that it did so much to sort of give the character of Thor more dimensions than just, I'm a big strong god, and I really loved that. And I think that there are a lot of scenes in this movie that really showcase how good Chris Hemsworth is as Thor, especially that one where Rocket's like, dead brother, it's annoying, huh? And then he like lists off how literally everyone in his life is dead. And I just really love that. I think Thor has so much more depth now than he did just after the first two Thor movies and the first two Avengers films. And I really enjoy that. I think this film just added even more to that. And I think that him showing up in Wakanda at the end is one of the most like badass moments in the whole film, when the Bifrost hits and then Thor throws out his new axe and then just starts massacring. And I think that's the one thing about this movie, is there are certain characters that definitely gained more than others from this film. Cap, I don't really think got much much out of it. Black Widow, Falcon, War Machine, all those guys. War Machine got a little bit, but I think the two big ones that got the most character development and the most depth added to them, and they've been in the universe for the longest, are obviously Iron Man and Thor. I think them two very much so got a lot from this movie, and in the next film I'm very excited to see how they react to the end of this situation. So obviously, as I said before, this is my spoiler talk. I'm going into detail about things, and the ending of this movie, that's the thing everyone wants to talk about. It's the thing when Thor shoves his new axe into Thanos' chest, and then Thanos has every Infinity Stone and he just snaps his fingers and kills half of the universe. And it just kind of cuts to the scene with him and Gamora as a kid, asking what it cost him, and he says everything. And then you cut back and Bucky stands up and is like, Steve, and then he disintegrates into ash. Dead. Just dead. And then you cut over to Titan, where the Guardians and Tony and Doctor Strange are, and you see Mantis disappear, and then Drax disappears, and then Star-Lord disappears, and then they cut back to Earth and you see freaking Black Panther disappear, and Groot disappears right in front of Rocket, and you see all of these characters die, and Falcon goes away, and it's just like, what is actually happening? And then obviously the big emotional scene happens when you cut back to Titan, and Doctor Strange is like, it was the only way, Tony. And then he fades away, and then you're standing there, and there's only 3 people left on Titan. It's Nebula, Spider-Man, and Iron Man. And then Peter Parker says, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. And it is so sad. He's just a kid in this movie, and Tony is holding him as he's saying that he doesn't want to go, and then he disintegrates and dies. And then you get that wonderful shot of Robert Downey Jr. just sitting there crying with the sun in the background as he has come to the realization of everything that's happened. Because to me, this movie was where Tony Stark got very serious. He refused to give up. He knew what was at stake, and I think that it was so great. I also have to be totally honest, the part where Thanos breaks the blade off and stabbed him, I was like on the verge of passing out in the theater. I was sitting there just like shaking, just like, you can't kill Tony Stark. I love the character of Tony Stark. I love Iron Man. Don't get me wrong, I love Spider-Man. His death was very sad, but when Thanos was like, when I'm done, half of humanity will still exist, and he's like, and I hope they remember you, I genuinely thought he was about to kill Tony, and it was just over, and I was just like, you can't do that. And of course they didn't, but the fact that this movie was able to bring that much emotion. I've seen this movie twice now. The first group of friends I saw it with, everyone was very emotional at the end, but no one cried. I went and saw it again with more friends, and no joke, every single one of my friends that I saw it with cried multiple times during the movie. One of them kept crying into the credits. And I think that is a testament to how well this movie handled everything. I know I gave this movie an A-, and I do stand by that grade, but I think that this movie is truly phenomenal. It is a moment in filmmaking that you can't really overlook. It can't be overshadowed by anything else. This movie now holds the record for the most money made in an opening weekend domestically, which is insane, and it's probably going to climb itself up to being in the top 5 highest grossing movies of all time, being as it's made over $500 million in just its opening weekend. However, to get a little more spoilery in the things that I didn't like about the movie that I talked about in my spoiler-free review, the big ones that I bring up are the pacing in the beginning. That one doesn't really require, I think, any spoilers. It's mostly just, if you've seen the movie, you know that in the beginning it has to jump around a lot to a lot of different stories that have a lot of different tones, and because of that, it feels a bit clunky at times when they try to transition between those scenes, at least to me. And then the other ones that I sort of bring up, one of them is a certain character that I didn't care for and really pulled me out of the movie, and that's Peter Dinklage's character, who is the dwarf that helps reforge Thor's new weapon. It's not that his performance was bad, I really just feel like it didn't showcase how truly great of an actor Peter Dinklage is, and it wasn't very funny to me. I just didn't really get it, and the effects on it were really odd, and it just genuinely felt very out of place for me. While I was watching it, I was just kind of like, this doesn't make me laugh, it pulls me out of the movie, and it feels very like not connected to the rest of the film, which really bothered me. And then the other thing was the Black Order, who felt very overhyped to me, because in the trailers and everything, they seem like they're going to play a very big role. And I do think Ebony Maw was amazing. I loved him in this movie. But the fact that all 4 of them die in the first movie, because this is obviously a 2-part film, we don't know the title of the next one, but the fact that all 4 of the Black Order died in this movie in pretty simple, you know, like they didn't take much to kill them. Ebony Maw gets thrown out into space. Freaking the black dwarf, also known as Obsidian or Cull Obsidian in this movie, gets the Hulkbuster arm put on, and then he gets dragged through the Wakandan force field and blows up. Proxima Midnight gets thrown into one of those big blade things and is destroyed. And then Corvus Glaive just gets his stab shoved through his chest by Vision. And it was just sort of like very, you know, unhyped. Like the scenes they were in were cool, but like when they died, it was like, wait, that's it? Like when Ebony Maw got thrown into space, I was like, that's it, he's done? And then same with Cull Obsidian, like dragged through the force field, blows up. You know, Proxima Midnight thrown into the thing, and then Corvus Glaive stabbed through the chest. And it's like, that's it? That's all it took? Was just them to be like distracted for half a second to get thrown into something, and that's all that you needed to kill these children of Thanos that are supposed to be so powerful? That really bothered me. I just really felt like it was just kind of like, these characters need to be more powerful. They need to feel like more of a threat. Even in their first fight scene with Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, he get their asses whooped by Black Widow, Cap, Falcon, and Scarlet Witch. Like, no, it's like a no contest. Like, they lose definitively in that fight. And then the other issue that I had with the film, after seeing it a second time, I still do agree it's there, is the fact that I think a lot of these characters have very little interactions with each other before they just form a team that seems to work cohesively. In Wakanda, you have a lot of characters that if they have met Black Panther, it was in very like short passing. It's not like they were very connected to them. And then in space specifically is the one on Titan, where we get a fight scene between the Guardians and Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Doctor Strange. And that scene is really funny, it's really great, it's got cool action, but it's mostly the dialogue that makes that scene so good. But then when it comes to the point where they know they're going to have to fight Thanos, it's not so much that they're like, oh, we gotta make a plan, because Tony does, but then it turns into a joke. And then Doctor Strange is like, I watched 14 million different ones, and we only won one time. It's the fact that then they're just like this massively cohesive unit when Thanos does show up to fight him. We didn't even get another scene of them bonding or sort of like joking around with one another or having fun or like making a definitive plan or arguing. It was literally just, oh, Thanos is here and now we work together perfectly, basically. And I really thought that that just felt kind of odd, because in Avengers 1, even in Age of Ultron, we still have those scenes where the Avengers disagree with one another, but then also ones where they do agree and they bond, and that's what makes those films work together well. This is an issue that I also had in Civil War, and I feel like Marvel has gotten to the point where they feel that just because we've had previous films that they don't have to do this because we're attached to each character individually, but when you team them up, you have to do that. It's like when Avengers 1 came out, they did it so perfectly in that movie with having these characters that we all were already attached to, but then bringing them together and making us care about them as a cohesive unit. In this movie, it very much felt like I was worried about Cap, but maybe not as worried about this person. I should be worried about everyone as a team, not just individuals in certain sequences. But like I said, the movie is awesome. I really just wanted to make this video to kind of go over and clarify some of the things from my actual review about what I liked and what I didn't like and why I liked certain things. Obviously, I'm not going to go into every little detail. I still think the Russo brothers did a phenomenal job with the movie, but I really just enjoyed this film. And if you guys have any sort of like views on the film, please feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you think of certain things, if you disagree or agree with me about things, because I really just want this video to be more of the discussion, because in the spoiler-free one, it's not like you can really talk about it. If someone clicks on this video, they are aware that spoilers are coming. So feel free to comment down below with your feelings. I'll respond and stuff. We can have a conversation about it because I'm very interested. But as always, guys, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below, like I said, about your thoughts on Infinity War. Share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and hope to see you guys later.